Gold, Gems, Treasure and Fish. Here today we've got a special for you. We're doing Finding Gold with the Equinox, part 2 or the sequel. Well received video we made, Finding Gold with the Equinox. I'll put a link to it at the end of this one for you, those of you who haven't seen it. But let's start off where we left off in the other video. Now, where we left off with how to find gold with the Equinox was we worked out that the best way to find gold with the Equinox at a beginner's level is to first of all turn off its treasure hunting features and make it a gold detector. The very thing, and as I said in that video, the very thing that makes this a powerful treasure hunting machine also takes away from its gold finding abilities. Now, to do that, the very basic way that I do that is, first of all, we run it in gold 1. We always have it in all metal, and if you watch the first video, you'll know why that's so important. And you know, some of the other settings there. Now, I'm running it in multi today. In the first video, I told everyone to run it in 40 kilohertz, which is, for the beginners, is the way to go. But there are times when multi can be useful when looking for gold too. But in basic, you run it in 40 hertz. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about running it in multi to expand your gold detecting abilities. But it doesn't work all the time. Okay, so we've got 40 kilohertz, we've got gold 1, we've got all metal. They're the important things. I'm running a recovery speed of 5. I'm running threshold level of 16, I think, but that's more a personal choice than anything else. Now, the threshold is a true threshold when you're in gold mode on the Equinox, but I use it the total opposite way that you would use a threshold on, let's just say, a Minelab PI machine, like an SDC or a 6000 or a 7000 or a 5000 or something like that. I'll explain that a little bit later. Okay, other things, of course, do your noise cancel. It's in auto tracking ground balance. I'll leave it in that. And volume to suit, and of course the settings. Now, the settings, I didn't really go too much into them last video, but that's about the minimum where you want to detect with. 17, 18, 19, 20. What you want the gold. Now, no matter what the mineralization, sometimes you have to go down a bit lower in certain circumstances, but basically I find under 13 is useless on this machine. Okay, 13, any sort of small gold, you basically, the coil's basically, you got to pick it up on the bottom of the coil to hear it. Okay, go back up to 17, makes a massive difference, and seems to run fairly stable, or as stable as you can with this machine in most things, or up to 20 when you want to get really adventurous. Now, you may think your Equinox is a tool to help you find gold. You don't find gold with the Equinox. I'll show you the tool you find gold with. Now, folks, these are the tools you find gold with. You don't find gold with that. That tells you where it is, but it doesn't. If you're not digging targets, you're not finding gold. This is the point here. Okay, this is the important bit. You must be digging targets. Okay, and of course, the complaint with the Equinox most of the time is that it's falsing all the time on the ground. There's a heap. So slow that swing speed down is the first step, but don't forget to dig targets. Now, why I'm saying this is, when you first start off in any area, and this includes me or anybody else, you don't with the Equinox, it's the opposite of looking for it with an SDC or something. You're not looking for a change in threshold, a slight little noise. What you're looking for is a nice sharp sound off the thing. You ignore the little tiny noises. Okay, you're looking to do it the exact opposite way. You're looking for that nice sharp little hit in the signal. Okay, and what you do when you first get to an area is you dig all the sharp, fast little hits. And in a certain area, you may have a look at the visual ID, but we'll go into that a little bit later. go to the visual ID and get a map for yourself of how the Equinox is operating in the area you're in. For instance, in some of the areas that I operate in, we go over and we get a sharp little hit quite often, and I get a signal ID or target ID come up with a solid or 11 or a 12. Okay, now in the Victorian areas that I detected like that, that was always a sandstone that gave off a very good signal. Now, even on the SDC, sometimes that sandstone would give off a signal like there was a target underneath. But you learn this, you map it in your head, and you've got to do that with every area you go into, with whatever machine you're with. But with the Equinox, more important. And then you can learn what targets not to dig, or what might not be gold, and the difference between when you do come over a bit of gold or another target, the difference between that and mineralisation. Let's find some targets and see how we go there. We're looking for gold nuggets, usually small gold nuggets. We're in Australia. For those of you who aren't here, we're in Claremont, Queensland, at Gold Machine. And one of the questions I get asked a lot, and I hear everywhere on the internet, is the Equinox runs too unstable in our gold. You can't use it. You can't use it. There's that many noises in that. Is there places like that? Yes, there most definitely is. First thing we do to limit the effects of that mineralisation down is we slow down our swing speed. We go to very slow. We hold with the Equinox coil, we try not to hit it on rocks, etc., on the ground. But what we do is we slow the swing speed down, kick rocks out of the way, and keep the coil. If I was running the SDC, I'd have it on the ground. With this coil, just above the ground, as close as we can get, and slow. Now let's have a look at the result of that. Okay, here we are, folks. Highly mineralised soil, nice and slow, searching the ground, nice and close, nice and slow. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, now as I said, that's me knocking the rock there. But look at that. Look at the difference. Now, just for a bit, back to quick. Unusable. Okay, but nice and slow. Huge difference. Okay, folks, I don't know whether you heard that from over there, but coming close. Now, now that's an 8 or a 9, folks. I'm a negative 8 or 9. I know most of the time in this area that's going to be, maybe it's a bit of iron trash, or it could even be a very mineralised iron rock. But you got to, the only way you know that is to dig some targets. And as I said, the only way you find gold is to dig targets. So let's have a look. Stop it. Okay, there's our signal. First thing I'm going to do, because I know it's on the surface there somewhere, I'll move that stuff out of the way. Still there. Make the pile smaller. Move it into a couple of little sections so we can hunt down where the target is. Okay, it's there somewhere. Over in this pile here somewhere. Not there. Not there. That's that sharp signal, it's there. There. It's gone, it's in my hand. Still it's in the scoop there somewhere. Okay, it's back in the hand. Okay, what do we got? We got a schistose, that red looking schistose stuff, and a bit of quartzite. So let's have a look. It's in the schistose there. Can you see that? Very nice. Just look at this. Now, another important thing. Come back to my face. Look at the visual ID on the thing. Oh, wait a minute. Don't come to me first. Now, another important thing is when you've got the target off the ground, have a look at the what the visual ID is. Okay, what do we got there? What's that coming out in, viewers? -9. Now, that's definitely some sort. It's very got a lot of iron in it, real lot of iron in it. And it's coming up a solid -9. Okay, so now I know that those rocks exist around here, and I can allow for them in my detecting. Okay, stop there. You see, I picked up the Knox and just thought I'd give it a go on this quartz and that around here, and we found ourselves a target. Now, I know it's gold because it's on the surface, but just come over here with me. There's our target there. Come here, folks, look at the visual ID. I've turned it into multi so it's a little bit more accurate. Negative numbers to about a 1 or a 2. But anywhere between that. Now have a look at this. Have a look at this. I don't know if you can even see that. Tiny bit of gold. I'd say it'd struggle to be 0.05 of a gram. It's very, very thin. But you hear that noise on the Knox there? Now this is the surrounding ground. It's mineralised. But the difference, when you go over gold, you can hear it every time. Okay, now 40 kilohertz multi-visual ID. Okay, now I said in the first video, which was mainly the beginner's video on how to find gold with the Equinox, that you only use 40 kilohertz. There are times when it does work better in multi, but these are very limited, and you've got to know when to use it in multi. Now, when you've got it in multi, the Equinox is searching more frequencies, so the visual ID is more likely to be correct. Now you've got that little, we run that little, we just watched that little bit of me finding the gold nugget there earlier with the Equinox, and you would have seen the visual ID jumping all over the shop from bloody -9 to 5. Now, people say to me, and I hear this a lot, dig the low numbers. Dig all the numbers is my look on it. If you search an area like I said before, and you can tell that -9 rock is a -9 rock, that's good. But why did it show up -9 solid in my hand, but on the ground it was saying -4, -5, -4. Okay, now this is the important bit. If you've got a bit of gold, now that bit of gold I found earlier, I can guarantee you that will come up 1 or 2 on the Equinox ID if I have it on benign ground. Okay, but the minute I throw it down on the soil down here, where we picked it up from, like you've seen, any of this soil here, it's going to come up with numbers all over the place. Now, why is that? It's because when that coil is going over the top of that gold, not only is it picking up that gold, the gold is also putting a halo effect, enhancing the effect of the minerals that are in the soil around it. So instead, the gold is definitely a 1 or 2 on the visual ID, and it will come up that in benign soil. But as soon as you introduce mineralisation around, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and that's why your visual ID goes all over the shop. And it makes it even worse, as you might have seen in that previous video, where if the nugget isn't a pure gold nugget, or not by pure gold, sorry, it's still mainly gold, but it might have an ironstone coating or something on it, the visual ID can't be trusted. It'll be all over the shop. You take that same ironstone coated nugget off the ground and detect it, yeah, it'll come up positive for certain. But you have it on the ground, you have it on the ground, swing that coil over it. The ID could be anywhere from -9 through to, and it'll jump all over the shop. Mainly the minerals we try to discriminate out when I say we are the ones that a constant -9. You basically know it's a metal. But if it's jumping over the shop and everywhere, it could be gold, which is why you've got it. Why the way you find gold is by digging targets. This is just a very, very useful tool in helping you find those targets. Okay, yeah, come in. Just stop the film. Come in. Useful tip for helping you find gold with the Equinox in the gold field you're in. And me and Robin do this both with gold and gems. Now, what we do is we have a specimen. Okay, so we'll have our little gold nugget we've got, or in the case of gems, we'll have a gemstone or two, a sapphire, a zircon, whatever. And what we'll do is we'll throw them down on the ground in the area we're working. Now, obviously, with the gemstones, we're trying to train our eyes to have a look in the ground to find what they look like in the ground we're working, and it tunes our eyes in. Well, with the metal detector, we're tuning the metal detector in and our ears to what sounds, noises, sometimes IDs, are present for finding a bit of gold in the area we're in. Very, very useful to take a little bit with you, throw it on the ground, and get yourself acclimatized to using the detector and finding gold in the area you're in before you even do it. I do that nearly every time, whether it be gem hunting with the visual acuity or with the detector, throwing a bit of gold on the ground, seeing how the detector reacts in the gold field I'm in to gold. Hey Darren, you said the visual ID sometimes can be useful. Okay. Now, in the very, very rare circumstances, and you might watch another video where we found some gold in hard rock at Mount Perry, visual ID is highly useful in those places because, and can be around here. If there's a pile of quartz where all the soil and all the red soil and everything's been washed away, or you've got a big bit of quartz and there's gold in the quartz, the Equinox ID will ring fairly true. It's only usually little bits, so it'll ring up 1, 2, something like that, but it could be anything up to 5. The Equinox ID works really well there where other mineralisation isn't involved. So if you've got a big bit of quartz, you get it up and you think there might be a bit of gold in it, run the Equinox over the top of that. If it's in the positive numbers, low positives especially, yeah, it's well worth breaking that bit of quartz up and having a look at it. Now, another quick tip, folks, when you're finding little bits of gold out in the gold fields, they're tiny, this thing is so sensitive, don't use your hand don't run your hand over the core, you'll just end up frustrated. Okay? Use the scoop. There's gold in that, you'll hear it. If it's in your hand, you might be picking up bits of dirt, that's registering the iron in your blood.